Well, hi everyone. Friday, the 23rd of May. It's great to see you all back on Club Grubbery. Good to have you back again, Johnny.
Thanks, Hoodie. Yep, great to be back, and we've been looking forward to catching up with Moira, and it's going to be a magnificent interview.
Yeah, we can tell already. Moira Deeming, Liberal MP for Victoria, in that disastrous state at the moment. Moira, thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you've been a very, very busy girl, and you've had some issues with your hubby, but with health wise, I mean, you've had some health issues there, and that's sort of kept you out of the loop a little bit. But we're happy that all that's being sorted for you, and let's get into this interview because we've got a lot to discuss.
Yeah.
Now, firstly, um, what is of great interest is the current GoFundMe campaign or crowdfunding campaign by your party leader, John Pesciuto. A lot of people making some pretty strident comments about that. It's a bit staggering, to be honest with you.
Yes. Well, I'm glad he's fundraising because I would rather that the money not be taken out of Liberal Party funds. And he has been saying right up until now that he wasn't worried about losing his house. He wasn't worried about going bankrupt. He seems to have multiple multimillionaire donors backing him publicly and privately. So on the one hand, I am confused that he's now going to the public for funds. And on the other hand, I'm relieved that he's not going to the Liberal Party for funds, or at least if he is, they seem to have said a polite no at this stage.
How are things in the party room?
I think it's hard for me to gauge because I find it, um, I find it a bit emotional being back inside the room. But I will give Brad full credit. It's a very difficult job. Obviously, there are serious emotional tensions in that room. And he's just been extremely professional, which is what we've needed. And, all of these problems, people can wish that they will go away, but all of this has raised important questions that the Liberal Party needs to be able to answer, some of which were posed in the federal election, some of which were just posed by the split between the federal Nationals and Liberals. And I think it revolves around the whole idea of the broad church versus the idea that you can't be so open-minded that your brains fall out or
Mm.
that you don't even have a set of principles.
Hmm.
And we do have a set of principles. We do have a set political and economic philosophy that we are supposed to be campaigning for and seeking to um, revive and protect in society because we believe that it is the best society that we can achieve. It is the best way to govern a society. And if we really believe that, then we don't need to be worried about, um, I don't know, appealing to other political party principles. Why would I be advocating for the Labor Party principles? I'm not a socialist. I don't believe in any of the steps on the way to communism, let alone socialism. So I believe in the, classical liberalism, which by rights is this Liberal Party.
Well, John's going to have a handful of questions for you, I know, Maura. But before you do, Johnny, I just want to say to you, Maura, as a Victorian MP for the Liberal Party, I'm really angry with the Liberals. I'm done with them. They're going to have to do a lot of work to win me back because our biggest issue, as far as I've seen in the last 4 or 5 years, is we don't have any opposition. The opposition just rolls over and lays down, and we have a crisis of government for sure, but we have a real crisis of opposition because the government is only as good as the opposition will allow it to be, and I think a lot of us are very, very disappointed in the Liberal Party across the board. There are shining stars there. You're one of them. And some of the other shining stars, like Jared Rennick, where are they? They're not in the Liberal Party anymore. They've been kicked out. So that's my view as an old grey-haired citizen who's probably voted Liberal more times than Labor. So, Johnny, I'll hand it over to you.
Where do we go to from here, Moira? I mean, it's hard, isn't it? I mean, you've got this uh, woke-leaning lefty culture that's sort of embedded itself into the Liberal Party now, and And the majority of Liberal supporters and voters, certainly aren't leaning that far to the left. I think what you said earlier, it's a broad church, and I think Howard sort of got it right. It's sort of you go down the middle and you sort of maybe lean one way or the other at times, but it's just gone too far to the left, hasn't it? It's just completely mad, and I don't see any improvement with Susan Ley. I mean, the right faction of the Liberal Party have been trying to get rid of her for 20 years.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't really know anything about Susan Ley. Obviously, I've been kind of stuck in my case for the past 2 years, and my history is actually on the Labor side of things. But the way that I look at it is, political parties are there to serve us. They aren't worthy, or they certainly don't function on unaccountable loyalty, unconditional loyalty like our sports teams. And as much as I very genuinely understand the disappointment with the Liberal Party as an institution, I have been watching this minor party strategy for a long time, and I just don't think, this is my personal opinion, and I could be wrong. I'm not saying that I know the future, but I keep thinking, if all of those people joined the Liberal Party, not because they think the Liberal Party is worthy of it right now, but because the Liberal Party doesn't have a critical mass of members, and it is a democratic organisation, of members who keep their membership up and help steer the ship of the Liberal Party, it has crashed into the rocks. And the people who end up looking like shining stars, we shouldn't actually be so bright. Everything that I'm saying is so ridiculously ordinary. Like, why would that be so amazing to say? Children should have ordinary safeguards, parents should have rights, and men should not be able to have their feelings usurp ordinary boundaries. These are ordinary things. Labor voters agree with them, Greens voters agree with them. It's ridiculous. The people who say that they don't agree with them, deep down, they often tell me in private that they agree with me. So look, for me, especially when it comes to actual serious catastrophic harm being done to children, the actual surgical removal and destruction of their genitalia and their organs, and the poisonous cross-sex hormones and the irreversible puberty blockers, those things, they really drive me towards what is actually going to be the fastest way to change the law, because these things are legislated. And the fastest way, in my opinion, is to, has to involve taking government. I've now sat on the crossbench, for a couple of years, and you make speeches. You very rarely hold the balance of power, because the Greens are sort of 30 years ahead of us, or, they've got 10%. They are basically a major party now. But we don't have that long to catch up. There are so many children being harmed. And you think about Alex Antic, why has he done so well? It's because he managed to ensure that members didn't quit even when they're upset, and nobody can get rid of him, basically. And that's what needs to happen. Like, we need to take back ownership of the party of the centre-right. If you are someone who is centre-right, by rights, this is your party. You own it. It's yours. Do not cede this ground to anybody who comes into this party, which should be yours. It says that it represents you, and be actually, let people take over the positions, use the money, speak for this party and under this Liberal Party logo when they're not serving your interests, when actually their beliefs and their attitudes align much more closely with an entirely different party. And so, as much as I think we've really got to get really mercenary about it, we've got to get completely brutal. The left, they do thin end of the wedge politics, right? They take a millimetre, they never stop going forward, they never stop. You can't stop them. We do purity politics. If there's one thing wrong, that's it. We break the relationship and we leave and we splinter. And I agree with lines in the sand on many things. I have said before that I, at one point, yeah, my husband and I were going to quit the Liberal Party. We really were. But now I'm even more convinced, having been on the inside of the party and felt that pushback, because I'm taking up space and I'm very popular with our members and I'm very popular outside, and I am deemed a threat. I mean, they want someone like me to quit. They want Jared Reddick to quit. They want Alex Antic to quit. People like that who are in our party want us to feel isolated, want us to feel disillusioned. They don't want us here. They want me gone. I mean, without naming names, I just witnessed a media campaign this week, which was basically saying, well, he might have defamed her, but really, we can't have people like her in the party. We've still got to expel her. We've still got to get rid of her. We can't actually have people like that in the party. Sure, he went a little bit too far. Whoopsie. But essentially, he meant well. And I think that is not true. That is absurd. That is offensive. But it just goes to show you that they have adopted those thin end of the wedge politics. They won't stop. And that means that in Australia, we will have the Labor Party, which represents the far left. And if we cede the Liberal Party, then both of the major parties in this country that can actually govern will be gone.
I think a lot of people would say that's a good thing.
Depends, because as far as I understand it, there's legislation which has, made it financially almost impossible for other parties to sustain themselves.
Yeah.
It is extraordinarily difficult to run a political party. The regulations that you can fall foul of. I mean, they've made it, well, I sound like it's a conspiracy now, but it's almost as though someone made it very, very difficult for any opposition to get up. And
yeah. But Maura, to be honest with you, I could apply to join the Liberal Party, but I guarantee you they'll knock me back. They're knocking people back.
They can only do that if they have the numbers. So if I was being completely mercenary, it is a numbers game. The minute you have the numbers on assembly, when your membership comes through, you won't be knocked back.
Well, I've got the wonderful honour of being expelled. So
there's a few of us out there. I keep discovering that it's a bit of a modus operandi.
Well, it's amazing, isn't it, to me that somebody like myself can be expelled. And I mean, you would have to say in the community, as a 25-year paramedic, that the majority of the community would say that you deserve to sort of create your own destiny and be a member of the Liberal Party if you wish, but not according to the New South Wales branch. But anyway, how does John Pesciuto? I mean, given what he's been found to have done in relation to your situation, I mean, how does the Liberal Party's code of conduct allow him to remain as a member?
I have no idea.
I mean, Hoodie, you wouldn't be able to stay in the bowls club, would you?
Well, I mean, absolutely right, and nor should you be. That whole episode showed up a sorry, defective character in the guy.
To be honest, I felt extremely betrayed
Yeah,
by the exact scenario that you've just pointed out. I was
yeah,
pretty shocked that even after I won in court, it was just crickets everywhere from everybody and everything official. And as much as that hurts my feelings, and as much as I find that extremely traumatic and re-traumatizing, and as much as I find all of it so painful for me personally, I am thinking about how can we get child safeguards put back in the law? How can we get better laws? How can we do good? How can we,
And you're right.
how can we promote justice? Because everything else is, like if there's some way that there's another solution, that would be great. I've wrestled with it, and I'm not saying that I know that I'm right. I'm not. This is how I feel at the moment. The more that they attack me, the more that they try and demoralize me so that I will quit, the more I am convicted that I should not quit.
Don't
Well,
quit, Moira.
and
Don't.
I think, to be honest, Hoodie, I think so many people out there that are members, Moira, would be maintaining their membership now because of your stance. I mean, you are a shining light. You're an example to everyone about why you should stay within. And you're right. I don't see anyone being able to have influence from outside the tent, and you really do need to be there. I suppose the only question I would have is, is Victoria a big enough platform for you? I mean, realistically, I think you're the sort of person that probably needs to be on the national stage. Very similar to Jacinta Namatjira Price. I mean, you have the potential to lead this country, and I think you would do a marvelous job at it. So, I mean, is there going to be a tilt into federal politics at some stage? I hope there is.
I don't think there's much higher praise than being compared to Jacinta Price. I adore her.
Mm.
She's been just a phenomenal support throughout this whole thing as well. She's a woman that I admire so much. Same with Peter Credlin. There are so many good people. There really are so many good people. And, we aren't effective inside the Liberal Party without really the membership guarding us. If it wasn't for the membership, I'm sure I would have been expelled from the whole entire party. I'm sure that's what, I mean, that's what was said was the goal. But because the membership didn't agree with what happened, they could see that it was unfair and they did know me. They had been seeing me around, you know, as I was pregnant and then not, like they'd seen me for the last 10 years. They knew that it wasn't correct and they protected me. And so, it is about, being that person who can bring others along with them. So you're right that, one or two people joining, that'll have no impact. That's correct. Everybody needs to sort of bring 5 or 10 with them, honestly. And we need to be wise. We need to be as wise as serpents and as innocent as doves.
Mm.
We need to make sure that we are above reproach as well. And
I,
honestly, that's my strategy. That's my strategy. That's what I'm encouraging people to do because uh, I don't want. I'm not satisfied with the government in this country flipping from Liberal to Labor when neither of them represents anything that I can see that is good. If the Liberal Party falls completely, and yes, we can all point out instances where they've completely, catastrophically veered off course and betrayed and damaged people. We can see that is true. But
Getting back to Jacinta Price, I would be proud to be an Australian citizen led by her as a Prime Minister.
oh, I know. I would love her to be
Oh,
PM. And look, in terms of federal politics, look, I always stayed away from it because I have little children. But I actually miss so much of my family anyway. I don't think it would make a difference. I've always said that I don't really care where I am on the chessboard. I just would like to help.
mhm.
So my husband and I and our family, we're just open to serving however we can. If they succeed in kind of getting rid of me out of here, it's not going to be as though the Moira Deeming problem will disappear. I will just continue to advocate from wherever I am. So
You know,
that's
the,
our
the,
plan.
the thing about your current situation within the party in Victoria, it emboldens me somewhat because I think if you can stand in opposition to defend yourself within your own party in the state of Victoria, the dreadful state of Victoria, you typify everything that's needed to have the strength of leadership to really mount a good opposition to become government. And that's really, really important. If you can hold your own in the situation you find yourself in, you're really worth your mettle, Maura. You really are. And I'm not saying that to flatter you or anything else. I mean, this is the kind of leadership that's required in the Liberal Party to help to bring it back out. We need you. We need Alex Antic. We need Jacinta Price because we desperately need a real Conservative Party, not a wishy-washy Conservative Party in drag, because that's what they are. They're just a left-wing party with a blue coat on.
And
The way I see it.
they're flying. The people who are in this party and really truly not advocating for our stated values. The only way to make them accountable is to be a member. And look, I look at all these people in Victoria and I think, you know, Labor Party voters are not far left. I come from them. I am literally a product of the Labor Party, basically, in the union movement. I'm not against unions. I'm just against corruption in government, in unions, in business, everywhere.
Yep.
And I just think what they need is a defender. What they need is a defender to show them how they've been exploited, to show them what's really happened to them, to explain what's even gone on. They can't even. No one has really laid it out for them what's happened. And rather than you know criticizing them like it's their failure, you were right. It's the failure of the opposition to do their job. We are supposed to be that overwatch, that defensive overwatch, and we haven't been doing it. And part of that is a lack of conviction. And I think what we need is a critical mass, like a movement, but it needs to be empowered by actually concentrating its power. This is why I think that when we split, it's so convenient for the people who are already here, already misrepresenting what this party is supposed to stand for. We are supposed to be the party of due process, the party of law and order. We are supposed to offer fairness on the basis of right and wrong, and nobody is more important just because of their position. But the amount of times, even this week, that I've heard senior Liberal Party figures say, well, he was the leader. And I think, oh, well, I was a person. I'm a person. Do I need to be anything else other than an innocent person to deserve justice? Why are you speaking like that? Identity politics and all of these special privileges, that belongs on the far left. We are supposed to stand for justice. And it's just not going to happen without, a massive push.
I'm sorry, he's no leader.
Well, Hoodie, look, I tell you, cancers need to be removed. This is the problem. I mean, you cannot maintain any sense of moving forward with this sort of hanging over the Liberal Party room. I mean, it's an embarrassment that he's now starting, or somebody on his behalf is starting a GoFundMe page and making out that he's the victim in all this.
Yeah, it's in extremely poor taste. And look, the wheels of justice do turn slowly, but they are turning. There are so many things that have yet to come to light, to be honest. It is amazing. It is amazing. I really think that this case, is going to be very painful. I don't think the pain of this case is over yet. And while I grieve for, any collateral damage or any prolonging of the suffering of Victorians, I really do actually grieve over that. It bothers me. It bothers me deeply. But, justice has to be done. Accountability has to happen. Otherwise, we're just going to be on repeat. Nobody will ever get good representation in Victoria. These things have to happen. So, like I said, there are more things to come to light, and there are lots of good people. I just think we need to network, get together, and have a bit more coordination. I think I'm hoping to work with Jacinta and Alexantic and a few others. Yeah. On doing a bit of a recruitment tour around Australia to really talk about this issue, because the disillusionment that you're feeling, the anger that you're feeling, you have every right to feel it. I felt it. Of course, I felt it. I felt it, as an MP, the worst, ironically. But it's, this is my party. I'm not leaving.
Good girl, and I really want to get onto a couple more issues because we know that you're a very busy lady and you've got a family. Johnny, the Victorian firefighters. I'm separating this from the farmers and CFA issue. I'm talking about our mates in the AFA. Some 40 firefighters in Victoria. They're in a dreadful state. Now we understand, Moira Deeming, that they are in the Fair Work Commission at the moment. We believe our sources tell us that Victorian Fire and Rescue are actually happy to have them back, but they're actually fighting the firefighters union in the Fair Work Commission. Now that's a reprehensible situation, but I can see why it's happening because to be honest with you, I think the guy running that union is a thug, and that's Peter Marshall. He's a real thug. John and I met him in Canberra, and it was a less than impressive meeting, I must tell you. But it's easy to see that he's fighting to keep those mandated firefighters from coming back to work because they represent a new firefighters union that could be a whole lot better than the one that's there now. And he's terrified that if they get back in, then his union might be on the ropes. Lots of the firefighters in Victoria are leaving that union. They're very disenchanted with it. A lot of them want those men back at work and they want proper representation. Do you
Yeah.
feel, from what you know, that these men will get their jobs back?
I have a deep, deep conviction that none of these things will be fixed by the current Labor government because it would be mutually assured destruction. They are all corrupted together. There is only one way out of this, and that is if we change governments and the government that we change to is different and worthy. And the only way to make sure, I mean, our two options are Labor and Liberal, really, in Victoria. You might have a few people on the crossbench. You've got to have a bigger crossbench, the crossbench that's not the Greens and not Fiona Patton's Animal Justice and Marijuana parties. Like the crossbench cannot be mostly those kinds of parties because obviously they're even further to the left. But we really do need a Liberal government in power with majority in both houses in conjunction with people like the Libertarians, I'm not sure, just it needs to be people that are interested in law and order, in fairness. And the Liberal Party has to be legitimate on that front as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's, people wouldn't be able to be incentivized and protected in their corruption if there were proper laws, and there are no proper laws here. Everything that they do, I guarantee you, I don't know all of the details of this case, I guarantee you that it'd be legal because that's what they do here. They stitch up the law. The people who are making the law write it to suit themselves and their friends. The conflicts of interest are just mind-blowing. And so, even changing governments, that's why I say it is so important not to let the Liberal Party fall. Because imagine if we did all the hard work, we got rid of the Labor Party and we had not gotten involved with and made sure that the Liberal Party is going to be loyal to its own principles. Like, how tragic would that be? How demoralising for the people of this state? So, the options aren't great. There's no perfect option. And these things are fixed through legislation. The buck stops with the people who make the laws. Nobody would be able to get away with anything if there was proper legislation, if there was a proper system of justice. So I've been doing my own I was doing a lot of private members' bills while I was on the crossbench, and one of them was I was just falling down a rabbit hole as I do. I'm a researcher about all the dead ends in Victoria in terms of when you complain about a process about the government, what happens? What pathway does it follow? And everywhere there are these dead ends. It doesn't get anywhere. And then you would have to restart after being totally exhausted and demoralised, facing all this insane bureaucracy and being in that maze. And if you get out of there alive, you would have to start again with a whole bunch of money in the court system. And by that stage, nobody can survive that. Nobody can manage that. And so we need to fix the whole entire system of governance. We need to make sure that we separate the powers. Nothing is separated in Victoria. The people who regulate you are the people who write the laws, who are the people who, there's just all these blurrings of responsibility. As a councillor, when I was a tiny little councillor, I refused to meet with developers. I actually accidentally met with a developer because he didn't tell me he was a developer. And I freaked out completely. And I rang the CEO and I told her, I said, I got out of this straight away. Rah, rah, rah. And she was pretty shocked at how worried I was, but I would never have done that. And I said he was silly to do that anyway, because now I will recuse myself from any and all decisions that impact his property. Whereas if he had emailed me through the proper channels, I could have, advocated for him as a normal resident. But what I'm trying to get across is everything here that's actually legal and designed to blur all the responsibilities. So when you want to complain, you don't know whose fault it is. You don't know whose original responsibility it was. You don't know who is accountable. And then right at the end, after you demoralise, you find, well, they were acting within the law anyway.
Johnny, we need to get on to this farmers thing because this is really, really critical. I'm in regular contact with some farmers in the Wangaratta area.
Mm.
Maura, we're hearing reports. You can't verify them, of course, but 17 farmers have taken their own lives in the last few days.
No, I heard that as well.
And
I wouldn't doubt it. I grew up around dairy farmers. We heard about that all the time growing up in whispers that when people, these hardworking farmers, they don't complain and they don't want to be a burden to anybody, and then you don't realize how demoralized they are and how they don't see any way out. And
but the
that
thing
would,
the thing that really angered me today was seeing a video clip of the grubby premier in Victoria, the communist premier of Victoria, who's Daniel Andrews in address, um, complaining in a news conference that a farmer had sent her a box with cow manure in it.
did you know it was vacuum sealed?
Yeah, well, it would have been.
When I read the report, I thought, oh no, that is a bit much, dumping a bunch of cow manure in front of someone's door. I thought, but it was completely sealed. You could see it so that you wouldn't accidentally touch it. It was obvious from the joke on the card what it was.
But these people who are suffering at the
Yeah,
hands of this dictatorial Labor government, they work in cow shit all their lives to produce food.
I
And
know.
she's carrying on about, the trauma in the workplace. For goodness sake, if the numbers are right, and I heard one farmer not only shot all his cattle, he then shot himself. The farmers I'm talking to in Wangaratta, they are so desperate at the moment because of this legislation.
I mean, it's catastrophic. The bills are so enormous and so sudden. I don't see how they would survive a year. I there was a rally at Parliament House, and there were thousands and thousands of these down to earth people who are the same people who would run into a building to save my children in a fire. You think, oh my goodness, I'm
Yeah.
literally walking in a crowd of the very best people that society could possibly have. It's amazing to be walking in a crowd of people who would do that. And then I heard, Brad Batten announced that we will scrap that tax if we get into power. And I had gotten separated from other people, so I was really invisible in the crowd, and so nobody knew who I was. And a couple of them just looked at each other and said, "We're not going to make it to the next election."
No.
And I thought, yeah, I know farmers. That's absolutely right. They're always on a really thin margin. One dry period, you almost go under. Sometimes they often have to get those loans, and it's so hard for them to pay it back and to get in front. And it was just so heartbreaking because in opposition, you are powerless. You can make promises, they can believe us and trust us, but are they going to last? It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. I don't, this is where civil society is going to have to step in. Everyone is going to have to be checking in on their neighbours. We can't rely on the government. You're not going to last until an opposition gets in. How long will it take them to pass the bill to even, who knows how long? And it's just a lesson, I suppose, we need to be sufficient away from government in many ways, and we need to we need to not just hold them accountable at election time. This is why being a member of a political party is important, to have that power over them. You need to have power back over them. Otherwise, they keep switching everything around, and by the time you look again, they've removed all of your power, and you've got no recourse, no access to justice. What can you do? You can't sue them. You can't say it's discriminatory. They're taking all this money from the people who are the ones that actually volunteer, and they've not even promised to spend it on the equipment that they need. It's not going back to them. It's going to pay off their debt. The other thing I found out recently was I was looking into our state debt because it occurred to me, I thought, who does a state or a nation borrow money from? Like, who do we even borrow from? Basically, we sell bonds for our debt. This is my early understanding. Like on the international market. And they can be resold. We don't even know who owns our debt. It could be China owning 80% of our debt. We don't know. We've got this little board in Victoria that is only accountable to the treasurer, and who chooses the board? The treasurer. So the interest that we pay on our debt, it's an income stream for the people who buy our bonds. We are literally a cash cow. Our farmers, all of us, the taxes we pay is just an income stream for who knows who, and we're not getting infrastructure, and they keep on taking.
But this is all happening because of the disastrous mismanagement, financial mismanagement of the Andrews government to start with. Johnny, please.
To be honest, can I say one thing before you go, John? This drives me nuts that people say mismanagement. I don't agree that it's mismanagement. This is textbook socialism management of money.
Marxism.
Their
Yep,
political
right.
philosophy is to break people down until everything is owned by the state and you don't get to make a profit. You get to be a unit of production for the state, which, is always the elitists who are just as bad as the inhumane capitalists. It's just two sides of the same coin, these horrendous exploiters.
Mm-hmm.
And the only defense you've got against it is, what I believe is that law and order that's based on separation of powers, no conflicts of interest, total accountability and transparency. The fact that they can sell our debt without us knowing who it goes to, the fact that they can give themselves carte blanche to tax us and do whatever they want with it, that no amount of money that they take from us is guaranteed or required by moral, for morality, all legislative purposes back into the community where it comes from. We're literally just being exploited. It's terrible.
Mm. And more on the international stage, I mean, things are a mess in Victoria. There's no question about that. But we've got the World Health Organization. Now, we interviewed Senator Ron Johnson last week, and he said that the WHO is a clear and present danger to our sovereignty. Now, the US have exited the WHO. The New Zealand government has essentially said, well, we're not going to let them have any control over us during a pandemic. But Penny Wong is signing us up with Mark Butler and people like Jane Holton, the gift that just keeps giving, are celebrating all this, and we are in real trouble, aren't we?
I think there are really dark times ahead. And I think that when people voted for Labor, they weren't voting for this. Having come from Labor, I know that they're not upfront with their members and their voters about what they're doing. For years and years, when I was complaining about the Safe Schools program, they would flat out lie. I would see them out in the community lying about what they'd done to parental rights and what was in the curriculum. They would lie. They would call me a liar. I started taking PowerPoints around. That wrecked them. But look, I have always thought that government needs to be as close as possible to the people over which it has authority. You should be able to walk around and knock on your local member's door. You shouldn't, no one who governs over you should be so far away from you that you can't go and see them within one day's travel, that you can't look them in the eye. And the fact that, this is still a system of nation states and we are literally signed up to all these ridiculous international treaties. We didn't vote for them. I think it's a disgrace, and I think it's a really good thing that there's pushback now. All the things that people said will never happen. The horses bolted. No one can. That's the way it is now. That's modern society. That's the way the world's going. And then we've had one nation say, actually, incorrect. And it wasn't easy for the Republicans. It wasn't easy, but Trump did what I think I've been trying to encourage people to do all along, having come from Labor myself, is that he knew that people in the other party are actually centre-right. They're much closer to the centre. The centre-left people and centre-right people are really, really similar. They've been taught to demonise each other, whereas in reality they're so close, and they both care about the same things. So the fact that he created this huge coalition with people from the Democrats who had stood against the corruption in those parties and built a new coalition. He didn't start a new party. He went right through the middle. He went right through the Republican Party, and he did all this renewal work. He did all this groundwork. And for me, that was very encouraging. Whatever people say about Trump, I mean, beggars can't be choosers. I don't know what will happen with him in the future. I don't know. I don't know how it will go, but there are lots of things that needed to happen that he has done and is doing. That at the very bare minimum, I think, well, good on him. People are complaining that we will suffer now, I think, but he wasn't elected to look after us. He was elected to look after Americans. Wouldn't it be great if we all had someone who actually did the job of looking after the actual people that they were supposed to look after, that was their only job? So look,
What would that be?
I think the pushback is on, and I'm encouraged by it.
He certainly put Cyril Ramaphosa on the spot in the Oval Office yesterday, the South African Prime Minister.
Watch that.
Amazing stuff. I mean, and look at what's happening to farmers over there. I mean, that's really dire straits stuff. Thousands, if what Trump said is to be believed, are being murdered over there.
Well,
But
we've got friends who've come over from South Africa. I don't know, they've been friends with us for 10, 15 years now. They told us horrendous stories. They got out early, they brought out their family. It is terrifying. And it's um, it's such a, I'm trying to be gentle. It's a childish position to hold that only one color can be racist to another color.
yeah,
I mean, it is absurd.
yeah, the whole
And the
thing.
fact that people can say it and not hear what's come out of their mouths is astounding to me.
I want to refresh. I want to paint a picture of the farmers who are in dire straits at the moment. For those people in the city who just think that beef and milk come from Woolies and Coles,
Sorry, I'm trying to hang up this phone.
that's all right. Um, Most of the farmers who are distressed at the moment are people who've been handed down the farm from generation to generation to generation, and they have a succession plan to hand it on to their kids. And talking to a lot of farmers, as I have, the abject um, horror of being the one person in the family line who lost the
It
farm
loses it. Yeah.
is just devastating, absolutely devastating. And these farmers, when the dollar a litre milk scandal was on, and Coles and Woolies were trying to dominate market share, that had nothing to do with market share. That was about getting rid of small dairy farmers so the Chinese conglomerates could provide cheaper and manufactured milk. Everybody knows that to be true. But those people were getting up. They get up at 2 in the morning. They milk their cows 7 days a week, and they were getting paid less for milk than you were paying for a half a litre of bottled water in the supermarket. And Coles and Woolies doing dollar a litre, regardless of the fact that those farmers were going out. Now the sad part is a lot of Australians said, "Oh, beauty, cheap milk." I tell you what, I didn't. I didn't buy it. I didn't
But
buy that dollar a litre milk.
people aren't educated to make the connection. I really think, first of all, everybody is suffering in their own way. Family breakdown, people are being, encouraged to take loans that they can't pay back. There's all kinds of elements going into it. But also, I actually think people are so overwhelmed by all the information and by everything that's going on that they can't see clearly, and they don't feel confident to be able to point the finger anywhere. They never feel confident enough about who is responsible. Who does confusion benefit? Only exploiters. Only people who want to exploit others benefit from confusion. People who want justice and law and order, they're the ones that want to, dispel all the confusion. And, you know, it's very sad that people don't understand the value of farmers. You never thought you would get to a point in society where so many people sort of are reminiscent of a beauty queen who thinks food comes from a supermarket shelf, not from a farm. But that's sort of what people sound like.
Yeah.
It's a real degradation of our group intellect and our group dignity that we have fallen so low, and everyone is suffering.
Mm.
Because there's no ability to have empathy when you don't understand, when you haven't been taught. I mean, you can kind of try and have it intellectually, but I don't know, I feel like everyone's just been so badly confused and misled that they don't know what to believe. They don't have any firm beliefs. They're lost.
Yeah. Johnny.
Moira, are you familiar with the website that Charles Carvest and a few others have put together called bandickdan.com? It's
No.
a I encourage everyone to go and have a look at it. Bandickdan, BANDICDAN.com. It's a great platform, encouraging everyone in Victoria with a business or a trade to sign up to refuse to serve Dan Andrews. A great initiative, and I think it's well worth supporting. So it won't just be golf clubs, Moira, that old Dan will be able to get
Oh,
into. There'll be a litany of coffee shops, tourist outlets, you name it, plumbers. Dan will be lucky to be able to get any services in Victoria very soon.
isn't it incredible that he was so arrogant
But Maura,
that he thought he would have a statue to himself and that it would be revered?
we're hearing from parliamentary insiders in Victoria that Daniel Andrews is even more active in the parliament now than he was before he pulled out. Are you hearing stories like that? Does he clearly have an influence in there still?
I haven't seen him. I've heard a bit of the opposite, but there's factions in the Labor Party, right? And as I said in Victoria, there's mutually assured destruction.
Mm.
Everybody's got dirt on everybody else. So I wouldn't be surprised if he couldn't bear because he's addicted to power. I would not be surprised at all if he couldn't bear staying away from it.
Mm. Did anyone genuinely reach out to you, Moira, from the Labor Party and say very sorry for what's happened to you? It's been a
Yeah,
disgrace.
lots and lots of them. They were actually incredibly kind.
Right.
Federals, um, one of them, in fact, came up to me. It was all so distressing that I actually didn't know who was an MP and who wasn't. Like, I didn't know anybody's names. It was just incredibly distressing period of time. It was almost like I haven't even laid down memories from it. But I do remember this one lady who I realised later was an MP. She came up, she grabbed my shoulders after I won, and she said, "Well done, Moira." And she was a bit teary. And I thought, oh, I think something happened to you. Like, this is so emotional for you.
Hmm.
And lots of people, when I meet them, it is emotional for them that I've won the case. They all feel in Victoria that justice hasn't been done for so long in this state,
Yep.
that they just this one case has really buoyed them and encouraged them. And even inside the Labor Party, because you can imagine how much worse it would be in there, right? It's like being a member of,
Do you get the feeling that if you took away, the nucleus of the very bad in that Labor Party, that there are some very good people in there that really don't believe in what they're progressing, or do you think the majority of them are really unassailable? They're just
Communists.
mm,
yeah. So I think I have like, a tension in my head. So I think personally and interpersonally even, they are just some of the most wonderful people.
mm,
And they really care about others, except they have and then there's the other side of it where I find it inexcusable. I find it completely and utterly inexcusable that they would take a wage and act as a cog in that machine and give up their right to a conscience vote where the consequences are undeniable and catastrophic. There I was raised in the Labor movement. Nobody I ever met,
mm,
no woman I ever met in the Labor Party would have ever countenanced children in brothels and prostitution all over our streets. That's what the modern Labor Party did. That is not ordinary Labor voter values. Removing parental values, no, that's not Labor values. And so part of me knows that deep down, you know, a lot of them are good people with good instincts, but I find it inexcusable in adults who are taking a wage, who have the levers of power, who could do something about it, go against their own conscience, and other people suffer for it. Like, it gets to the point for me where it's no longer it's inexcusable. I'm not personally I'm not trying to act as though I'm morally superior to them, but when it comes to it, the fact that they are good people and they do know what's right, it makes it worse.
Well, we better wrap this up. We've had you for an hour already, and we sure appreciate it. John, clearly the really big issue for Victoria at the moment, you've got to deal with things as they crop up, is getting that tax chopped. And the fireys and the farmers who turned up the other day in Melbourne did a fantastic job, but it can't be a one-off event. You have to come back. You have to keep the pressure on these mongrels because clearly Jacinda Allen, like many politicians in the Labor Party and the Liberals, they're not able to read the room. They don't read the room. Now, to turn up at a press conference with two of your female supporters behind, all looking very serious because you've got a bag of cash in on your desk,
Mm.
Jacinda, when farmers are going through what they're going through, means you don't know how to read the room, which means you shouldn't be in power, which means you shouldn't have any authority, which means you need to back off and do the right thing. Because there's no situational awareness in these people. You're poking the bear. Look at all the people behind John. Are you
Do you know
going to?
what I think? I think they've done the numbers. They picked on farmers and volunteers because, you know, per capita square meter, that amount of votes they can lose.
They
Isn't
know
that
they're
awful?
going to vote for
Isn't
them.
that awful? But
Yeah.
yeah, but they I reckon they would have done the numbers.
Yeah.
They are the
100%.
best
Yeah.
number crunchers
Yeah.
that I've ever seen, and they're brutal. And power corrupts, and it corrupts absolutely. I watched Jacinta Allen in an interview on the radio. The interview, I think it was Tom Elliott. He was really good. He was going very hard at it. I always find it amazing that they don't blush or something. I would just go, I'll just be so ashamed. And
Mm.
I would stumble over my words because I would be struggling to get it out. But they're so seasoned at saying things that make no sense, that aren't true, that aren't legitimate. It's astounding to watch. It's astounding and terrifying to watch. And um, this is why we absolutely need to do the educational piece in Victoria, and we need to connect people. We need to stop all this division. They love divide and conquer. That's why they have identity politics. That's why they have unions to pit people against each other. That nothing is for its legitimate purpose.
Yeah. Well, they're poking the bear. There's no doubt about it. All those people in that photo behind John, that's just the tip of the iceberg to what's coming. We've been saying for 4 years, John, that the people who slept through COVID, they're going to wake up when things like this have happened in Victoria and other things are coming.
I
Digital
hope you're
ID.
right. I hope
They,
you're right.
well, they are because when it affects people in their hip pocket, and it's the firefighters and the farmers stood really strongly. I wish all of
They
them had
did.
stood in the last 4 years at the rallies in
Mm.
Melbourne. Many of them didn't want to know about it. But we stand with you. We stand with you because this is an indicator of the people rising up, and governments need to be aware. You're going to be in a very, very dire situation one day if you push the people too hard. History is replete with disasters that have happened. So,
Mm.
Moira, we just want to thank you so much for being on the program. Thanks for making yourself available. You've answered some pretty awkward questions, and I know we're not wanting to add the pressure to you within the party room, but the people in the party room who are sort of fluffing around the edges need to find their character. They need to develop their character, and they need to support you. We support you, and we know the people watching this will be supporting you. So I'd like to close with a prayer before we go to finals, John. Dear Lord Father in heaven, we pray fervently, Father God, that the battle between good and evil, which is being waged against everyone on this planet, will be dealt with by you ultimately, and that you will give us the strength and courage to choose the right side. Father, we choose to stand in the light because you are holding the light. May you bless us in our efforts. May you fill us with courage and wisdom, and most of all, compassion. Father, we pray for our Victorian farmers. We pray for the people of this nation that they will withstand the Marxist onslaught which is coming our way. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Johnny, you've often been heard to say.
You just couldn't make this stuff up.
You couldn't. Thanks, Moira.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And we hope your hubby gets well soon, and go and enjoy some dinner, and please keep us in the loop.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You get Jacinda Price to come on this program. We would be forever grateful.
I'll put in a good word.
Good on you. Okay.
Come
Thanks.
on with it.
Don't forget, everyone, this is a great country because you live in it. If you love it, stand up for it. It's not hard. Just say no. God bless you all, and we'll see you next time on Club Grubbery. Bye for now.